Welcome back, viewers. We will continue our discussion from part 18.18 of the novel. So in this part, Lata reads the letter from Harish. Harish apologizes firstly for his behavior on acting very frantically on the word mean, and then he apologizes to Lata, and he even informs Lata that he has given up eating pan because Mrs. Rupa Mehra and basically the Mehra household does not like Harish eating pan. In the same letter, Harish mentioned his insecurities, his fears, his strength. Harish proposes Lata, but in a very different manner than Amit. Amit proposes to Lata in a very flamboyant manner, through a very beautifully and specially inscribed poetry that he had written specifically for Lata. Harish, on the other hand, proposes to Lata in a very simple and subtle manner, in a very grounded manner, and this has stark contrast to the proposal of Amit. In the next part, in part 18.20, Arun also writes a letter to Lata, and this letter by Arun helps Lata to come to a conclusion very quickly about whom she should marry. So Lata gets her answer right after reading this letter by her elder brother Arun. This letter helps her judge whether she would like to marry Amit or she would like to marry Harish. So in this long letter, Arun hits out at Harish and tells Lata that Harish will never be a suitable boy for Lata. He praises Harish for his excellent qualities, but then also downgrades him on his eating pan, on his upbringing, on his dress sense, on his family, on his job as a shoemaker, on his not so polished English accent. He also mentions that Harish cannot speak good English like the Chatterjees and like the Mehras also. He also mentioned that Harish does not have a very good respectable job and is not a very intellectually sound person like the Chatterjees are. So towards the end of this letter, Arun clearly pronounces that she should not marry Harish. Very soon after reading this letter, Lata finds her answer and she makes up her mind on whom to marry. She writes a letter back to Harish informing Harish that she would like to marry him, and she simply accepts his proposal of marriage. Now, contrary to the expectations, in part 18.21, her friend Malti refuses to believe this and says that she should not marry Harish. She tells her that this was not a good decision that she has taken. And in this conversation between the two friends, Lata tells Malti that both she and Amit Chatterjee are very similar and they will not be able to make a good pair. She also mentions that she is just infatuated with Kabir and that it is not true love that she is having with Kabir. Then Lata narrates the poem by Arthur Hugh Clough, which says that there are basically two kinds of love. And the poem is, this is the poem. She says that there are two different kinds, I believe, of human attraction. One which simply disturbs, unsettles and makes you uneasy, and the other one which poises, retains, fixes and holds you. So the first love is the one which is very passionate, which is very exciting, which can unsettle you, which can make you go uneasy. Then there is this other kind of love that gives you calmness, that gives you poise, that gives you the strength and solidity to maintain a relationship. Lata clearly wishes to have the second sort of love, which can only be felt with Harish and never with Kabir or Amit. So in the next few pages of chapter 18, the trial of Maan begins, and in a miraculous turn of events, Firoz comes forward to save him. In front of the magistrate, Firoz mentioned that he himself stumbled upon the knife and that it was not Maan who had stabbed him, but it was an accident which led to the injury of Firoz. If you remember, Maan earlier on had accepted his crime and had surrendered to the police, but still Firoz saves him by taking the blame upon himself, and the court finally acquits Maan Kapoor. So part 18, which is the part where most of the action gets resolved towards the end of the novel. Now let us come to the last final part of this huge novel, and that is part number 19. This is part 19. Now part 19 of the novel is the last final part of this exceptionally long novel. The ending part begins with the news that Varun, the weak, the timid, the shy boy Varun has recently cleared his preliminary IAS exams, and very soon he will be called for interview. At the same time, the wedding preparations are going on, and in part 19.3, Mrs. Rupa Mehra goes to the jeweler and he recognizes the metals which were earlier given to the jeweler to melt them, and the jeweler recognizes that they belong to Mrs. Rupa Mehra and he returns it back to her. In part 19.6 of the novel, the wedding arrangements begin at Dr. Krishan Chand Seth's house. Harish's family is in Delhi and the family comes from Delhi, and the Chatterjees also arrive from Calcutta to Dr. Kishan Chand Seth's house. Then in part 19.10, As the wedding ceremony goes on, the readers are informed that Varun Mehra has finally become an IAS officer, and he is much more assertive and he is much more confident with his newfound status and his increased social status. So the earlier timid, weak-willed and docile Varun is now replaced with a more assertive and confident IAS Varun. So the Sindoor ceremony takes place in 19.10, and then we get to know that in 19.13 Varun's increased status, and therefore Malti has her eyes on Varun and she is interested in marrying Varun. So Mrs. Rupa Mehra realizes that something is cooking between Kalpana and Varun. So she realizes that they both like each other and she is uncomfortable with the idea of Varun marrying Kalpana Gaur. So then, just like the first chapter and the first line of the novel where Mrs. Rupa Mehra tells Lata that she too will marry the boy she chooses, once again Mrs. Rupa Mehra mentions to Varun that he too will marry the girl that Rupa Mehra chooses. So therefore the entire novel completes the circle and comes back to the same theme of marriage, which is the central theme of the novel. So in part 19.16, both Haresh and Lata, they leave off from the train station, and the novel ends here with both Lata and Haresh going on in the train journey. The novel ends here. So we have had a detailed discussion of the summary of the novel from part 1 to part 19, and now I may have missed a lot of details, of during this summary. So this summary is just an aid, just a supplement to this novel, and in no way shall be taken as a substitute of the original novel, because the felicity of language, the deep insights into the human character, the almost quasi-historical realistic depiction of the socio-political lives in the 1950s was missing from this summary. Therefore, I would urge all the viewers, all the readers, all the students of literature to read this massive, beautiful novel page by page and use this summary only as a reference point. Now, since we have just now completed the summary, it would be pertinent to speak a few lines about the adaptation of this novel. So, as you can see, this is a suitable novel, a web series, and we will see how the web series is different from the original novel by Vikram Seth. And you can see the two pictures here, and on the right picture you have the three prospective candidates, and on the extreme left we have Haresh, then on the next there we have Kabir, and on the extreme right we have Amit with Lata towering in front of them. Now, the BBC adaptation of A Suitable Boy is a television mini-series. The series is very condensed given the complexity and length of this almost 1500 paged massive novel. So its detailed narrative can not really be adapted in just 6 episodes. So while it stays true to the novel's core themes, there are several notable differences between the series and the book due to the constraints of adapting such a massive novel into a limited series. For instance, the novel differs from the web series in terms of the length and the scope. So the novel gives a lot of attention to details of everyday life and the various socio-political movements that the novel is set in. It features 4 major families and numerous side characters with extensive discussions on topics like land reform, religious tensions and Indian politics. But the web series does not touch on all of these. Right. So several important political and social topics such as the land reform, such as caste issues, which is a very prominent issue in Vikram Seth's Suitable Boy in the novel, the zamindari law, the national development, all of this is missing in the web series. So the novel delves very deep into the communal tensions, the political questions and the implications of the zamindari bill, but the web series focuses more on the angle of love rather than the angle of post-independence Indian politics. So the focus of the web series is more on the central storylines, particularly Lata's romantic journey with Man and Man Kapoor's infatuation with Saeeda Bai. Right. So basically, The Suitable Boy is a sprawling novel, and therefore it is difficult to be included as a web series, which has its limitations of length. So due to time constraints, several characters and scenes from the novel are omitted or heavily reduced in the series. For example, again let's go to the other example, the intricate details of the Mehra family's dynamics, the Chatterjee family's intellectual debates, and the broader political discussions that happen in Chatterjee family are less prominent in the novel. They are less prominent in the web series, right? So the various debates that happen in the Chatterjee household related to literature, related to, for example, the Bengali culture, is missing from the novel. The Chatterjee household is a very animated place, as we know when we read the novel, where a lot of discussions, debates keep happening about the various aspects of Bengali culture, about the aspects of intellectual theory, of literature, aspects of literary pursuits. So in the web series, we are rarely given any adequate detail about the Chatterjee household, and this is a big omission. This is an important omission, of course. So I call it as an important omission. I mean, the reason that it's an important omission is because the Chatterjee household and whatever goes on in the Chatterjee household gives us a great idea about the newly independent intellectual class and how the newly independent intellectual class was trying to find their way in a post-independent, disoriented Indian civil society. Right? So the Chatterjees, as we know, they represent the elite class, the educated class, the high class aristocratic society, because the Chatterjee family, as we know, they belong to the family of judges, they belong to the family of poets. Now this aspect of the novel has been glaringly omitted. It has been glaringly omitted, I would say, from the web series. So therefore, the idea is, what I am trying to say is that the larger perspective of the novel, to get a larger perspective of the novel and to get a more true or I would say a more fuller understanding of the novel, it is extremely important, I would say, to rely on the unabridged text of Vikram Seth's novel and not just the web series. The novel, as we know, balances the personal and the political, right? So Vikram Seth has given ample amount of space to the personal as well as to the political, which makes A Suitable Boy, the novel, which makes it as much about the state of the nation as it is about Lata's search for a husband. And this is one of the key strengths of this novel. And that is that it is a realistic portrayal, as I have repeatedly mentioned in my previous lectures, it is a realistic portrayal of the socio-political backdrop of the age in which it was set. And what was that? That was the 1950s India. So the novel talks a lot about the various land reforms, the anxieties of a newly independent India, and the evils, as we know, of communalism and religious differences. So the web series, however, the web series focuses, it places more emphasis, it focuses more on the romantic elements of the story, particularly Lata's relationship with Kabir, Amit and Haresh, and also as well on the subplot of the novel, of the web series and of the novel, that is Man's affair with Saida Bai. So the love stories are brought to the forefront, making the series feel more like a period romance drama, right, which describes about the dramatic events of a particular period in history. And we already know that this novel is a quasi-historical novel, a quasi-historical realistic depiction of the India of the early 1950s and late 1940s, right after the independence, right after partition, to the run up to the general elections of 1952. But in reality, the novel is, as we know, the novel is not just a period romance drama, but much more than that. It's a sort of a, what you may call, a quasi-historical drama. So therefore, one of the key differences in the novel and the web series is the length and scope, which does not get translated accurately when you look at the web series. Therefore, to understand the larger socio-political context, to understand the larger depth of characters, to understand the larger significant events in the novel, it is extremely crucial for all of you to read the original unabridged version of Vikram Seth's Suitable Boy. And character development, if we talk about character development, I just now mentioned it, it also takes a beating in the web series. So characters like Mahesh Kapoor, Mrs. Rupa Kapoor, they are, they are, and even minor figures like Kakoli, Malti, Dipankar, they are richly developed in the novel. But in the web series, some characters are less developed, some are more, and of course, due to the limited screen time that we have. And let us just look at one example. For example, Haresh Khanna's characters is less explored, and his role in Lata's decision making is more straightforward. Another example is the character of Amit Chatterjee, the flamboyant and the intellectual poet who shares a great bond of friendship and literary interest with Lata. The great bond that Lata shares with Amit is not explored very deeply in the web series. It is, however, explored very deeply in the novel. So therefore, the idea is that the novel delves into these aspects, right? So the real strength of Seth's novel lies in the characterization and in the true to life manner in which Vikram Seth draws his characters, isn't it? So in this huge novel comprising of more than 1500 pages, there are dozens and dozens of minor characters who play a very key role in driving the narrative forward. So as we already know that in any literary text, the minor characters often play a major role as they act as crucial elements which binds the entire narrative together. These minor characters are developed in great depth in the novel Suitable Boy, and in the subsequent lectures that I will be taking up very soon, I will be delving into the character analysis. For example, if we talk about the minor characters, since we are talking about the minor characters in the rural village area of Rashid's home play a very crucial role in showing the ground realities of the times in which the novel is set, for example, Khachedu. But in the web series, he is not given much prominence. So, the various characters in Rudhia district represent the ground realities of the times in which the novel was set, and that is the 1950s India. So, the various characters in Rudhia district, in an, I would say, almost quasi-historical realistic sense, very realistically portray these characters with great depth and conviction. Another difference, one more difference, I will briefly touch upon, is the ending of the movie and the ending of the novel. The ending is very different in both the cases, very important to understand for all the viewers and the readers of this novel. Lata's decision to marry Haresh Khanna comes after much internal conflict and consideration of her other suitors. It reflects the societal pressures and personal growth that she experiences throughout the novel. The ending is somewhat open-ended, leaving readers to ponder over Lata's future. In the novel, the ending is open-ended. There is some sense of tension in the relationship between Lata and Amit as the novel ends. So, it is not a happily living after sort of an ending that Vikram Seth gives us. So, the series follows a similar trajectory with Lata choosing Haresh, but the ending is more definitive and less emphasis on the ambivalence that Lata feels in the novel. There is a very less emphasis on the confusion, on the ambivalence that Lata feels in the novel. The series closes with a sense of finality, but the novel does not entirely provide that sense of finality. So, overall, while the web series A Suitable Boy captures the essence of Vikram Seth's novel, it necessarily simplifies it. It also condenses the complex narrative, isn't it? And this is basically done so that the format of a limited series can be useful for condensing this entire 1500-page novel. So, the series focuses on the personal and the romantic aspects of the story, and very less emphasis is given on the broader social and political context that is very richly developed in the novel. So, therefore, to understand the larger socio-political context, to understand the larger depth of characters, and to understand the larger significant events in the novel, it is extremely crucial to read the original unabridged version of Vikram Seth's A Suitable Boy. So, at this point, I come to the end of this lecture again on the summary of the novel. So, we have went on to a detailed from this point of time in the subsequent lectures that I will be coming up with very soon. We will go on to detailed character analysis of the various characters and will discuss other relevant themes in the novel as well. Now, before actually I close the lecture for the day, let me very briefly tell you what I am going to discuss in the upcoming lectures, that is in the subsequent lectures of this lecture series. On the slide you can see this will be the focus of the next lecture. So, what I will be doing is, first is, as you can see on the slide, the character analysis of the major characters in the novel and some minor characters. You remember I told you that Vikram Seth's A Suitable Boy describes a lot. There are dozens and dozens of minor characters. There are so many minor characters in this novel, right? So, we will be trying to analyze some of the most important minor characters, and those minor characters which give a much more totality to the novel, which give a much more shape to the novel, those minor characters which play a very vital role, which play an extremely crucial role, I would say, in the narrative, in the plot of this novel. So, the first one that you can see on the screen is the character analysis of major characters. These will be the focus of the next lecture. And the second one, so what I will be doing is, I will be discussing the nation, narrating the nation, that is India, and Vikram Seth's realism. So what I will be doing in the subsequent lectures is that I will be showing you how Vikram Seth's A Suitable Boy is Vikram Seth's own attempt to narrate the nation that is India. How Vikram Seth's Suitable Boy is an attempt by Vikram Seth to describe his sense of realism, because that is what he is doing, right? Vikram Seth captures the essence of the realist of the age in which he was living, in which the characters were living. And he does that in a very realistic manner. He painstakingly describes each and every detail. For example, the various instances where he describes in detail the courtroom drama, the courtroom proceedings, the various proceedings and the papers and the laws and the legislative papers in the legislative assemblies. So what is this? This is a part of Seth's realist project, right? So this will be the second part of the subsequent lectures that I will be taking up. So I will be taking up these two aspects in the subsequent lecture. So what we have done till now, just a brief summary of whatever we have done till now. In the various lectures that we have, in all these lectures till at this point of time, we have discussed in detail the various events that have happened in the first 19 parts of the novel. We have discussed the summary of the novel from part number 1 till part number 19. Then I have also discussed the various aspects, the various issues related to the novel and then the web series. It is advised to it is because this is also a part of literary studies. We also can delve into the idea of adaptation and the politics of adaptation, and how adaptation gives in a lot to the narrative, but at the same time takes a lot from the narrative because of the various experimentations, which is the need of the hour for any adaptation, right. So what I did was, I also discussed the various ways in which the adapted novel, that is the BBC documentary, the BBC mini web series describes Vikram Seth's A Suitable Boy, how it carries Vikram Seth's Suitable Boy, and how it has deviated from the idea of the original novel Vikram Seth's Suitable Boy, and we have had brief discussions on that. And then I have also discussed from part number 1 till part number 19 the entire summary of this massive novel. So on this note, I will end the lecture. I believe that all these lectures till now, they have cleared all your doubts related to the massive storyline of this humongous massive novel. I have tried to cover all the crucial aspects in this lecture. Looking forward to seeing you all in the subsequent lectures in the very near future. Till then, keep watching CEC-UGC, keep learning and keep reading Vikram Seth's A Suitable Boy. Thank you so much for your attention. Goodbye for now.